Hi guys, welcome to this week's Study Saturday video. Last week, if you haven't seen the video already, go back and check it out. It is my top 5 informal English mistakes made by students on papers in academic writing. That was inspired by my first year English writing skills students. And then this week's video is my top 5 common errors that undergraduate students make when submitting papers in an APA format. So this is more specific, and this is based off of my second year students in academic writing and the mistakes that I found across the board in my different classes. So let's get started. The first one, this one seems to be maybe a bit silly for some of you. You should have learned this in kindergarten or first grade, but my first error is that students don't put their name on their documents. Now, if you're submitting via Ephoris or Turnitin or a different kind of plagiarism scan, then obviously there's a student number and some kind of name identifier for the student. However, you also attach your document to it, and often students don't put their name on the actual document. And that's not following APA guidelines. You're supposed to put your name on that. And in this kind of time frame when we are working with coronavirus and teachers are not getting hard copies from students, they either have to save the document under the name that you've filed it as, or they have to print it out themselves, and if there's not a student name on it, then they have to go back and find it and try to see whose paper this is. So really important, when you save your document, try to save it. If your teacher hasn't given you instructions on how to save the document or how to submit it, make sure that your name is in there somewhere and that the class and the assignment is clear from the document file name, and also wherever you submit it and in the actual document that you have a title page with your name on it. Now for MLA students, that's not a problem because your name will appear in the top right corner of every single page. But for APA, you only have page numbers. You don't have your name on every single page. Okay, number 2, submitting your file in a PDF form. So teachers cannot give feedback in PDF form, so please always make sure to remember, unless your teacher requests PDF or a specific file, that you use Microsoft Word files, a Word doc. Number 3, punctuation for in-text citations. This one is very easily mistaken, and different types of styles will have different requirements. But for APA style, you want to make sure that your punctuation for the in-text citation goes outside of the brackets, or as we say in American English, the parentheses. So you don't have your information that needs to be cited finished with a period or full stop, and then in the brackets or parentheses, your source, and then another period. You have just your sentence, and then you have your brackets or parentheses as if it's part of your sentence, and then the punctuation comes at the end of that outside of the brackets / parentheses. It's not a major error, but it is an error, and it happens very, very often among students. Number 4, formatting your reference list. This one is the easiest way to learn how to format your reference list is to make sure that you review samples and examples. I know that sometimes APA guides can be quite long and it's dense, and you need to always go back to see different kinds of sources, how they're supposed to be cited. But for the actual reference list, a few common mistakes are that students just put it right at the end of their essay, and you're supposed to start on a new page with your reference list. The other thing is the hanging indent. So after you have the first line with the author's name and the title, and then anything that goes on to a second line or further should be slightly indented so that the first line starts over here and everything else starts a little bit further to the right when you're looking at your document. So I will link in the description box for this video an APA style from Purdue, the APA style example of a paper, and you can see exactly what I mean by that there. Also that the spacing is supposed to be double space, and you want to make sure that you don't say bibliography, but you say either references or reference list. All of those little details are commonly miswritten in students' papers. And my last one, number 5, not fulfilling the purpose of the essay. So it's very important that you make sure you read what your instructions are for the essay and that you're following the guidelines that your teacher has set out for you. If you're writing an argumentative essay, you have to have an argument. You're not just discussing a topic, you are formulating a clear argument using logic and making sure that you're relying on reliable sources and using those to bolster your argument. If you're doing a summary, then you want to make sure that you're summarizing whatever the video or book or article or topic is that you are asked to summarize in that way. What is it that you're summarizing? If it's an event or a source from another author, then it's not your opinion on the matter, it's your summary of the content from the original source. Or critical analysis, if you're asked to analyze a philosophy or a research method or a new policy, then that's what you need to do with your paper. Just really analyze and go point by point through the things that you are meant to go through. Students will often use anecdotal information in their paper, or they will give way too much background information, and that's just not what we want to see then when you have clear guidelines for your paper. So make sure to read those carefully, as well as your grading rubric, before you submit your papers, and honestly before you start writing, to save yourself a lot of time and get a higher grade. I hope this has been useful. Remember to look down in the description box. I'll link the example for APA papers, as well as a link to my last video, the informal English mistakes. And I will see you next Saturday for the next edition of Study Saturday. Bye!